Steve! Oh my goodness! Holy sh!
Well, hello there, friends. It's a lovely, I think I heard it was 9 degrees out, but it feels better than that because the sun's shining and the wind's not blowing. I'm sitting in the V8 solid axle swap sport track here going down the road. Got a trailer on the back. On my way to pick up yet another project. And I am really, really stoked about this project. I'm a little excited. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you about it just yet. What's that joke about keeping a Pollock in suspense? I guess that makes you the Pollocks. We'll get to it soon enough. I don't know if the phone's picking it up, but this is kind of one of the reasons here in the Midwest that we can't have nice things. Right here in the center and over on the shoulder, well, actually, yeah, that white chalky substance, that is a brine residue, and it has not snowed here for, I don't know, a week or so. And this thing is horrible. This stuff is horrible. That's pretty cool. This stuff is horrible on vehicles, and it ain't good for the roads either. But I guess that's just the way things are. Personally, I'd rather take my chances on the roads without it. I think I'm a good enough driver, but I understand a lot of people out there aren't. A few hints. What I'm after today. Sorry about this road. It's kind of bouncy with this trailer on it. That's a little better. I've got my small car trailer on. I've got like 4 car trailers. One's my big old gooseneck. I've got another one that I used to use years ago. It's in serious disrepair. I rarely ever use it. I got my big, is it an 18-footer? It's my best one, although it needs a floor. This is what I threw together a couple of years ago for with the intention of hauling my zero-turn mower down to my mom's and mowing her yard after my dad passed away. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, some hints. What I'm after today, because I have this little car trailer that tells you it's something small. It's not like an ATV or something like that. It's kind of a car, but it's kind of not. It's kind of for off-road use, but it's kind of not. It's just, I've been kind of had my eyes peeled for one of these for quite a while. You can thank a guy that I know named Brian Bartz. Back when forums were super popular on the internet, 4-wheel drive club I was in, Make It or Break It, had one on his website. I'm pretty sure that's not the case anymore, but I never really wheeled with Brian. I met him a couple times, you know, cool enough guy, and he lives far enough away that he would get on the forums with some of the stuff he would build, and I'm kind of gonna, yeah, I know a cool idea when I see it. I'm not aware of anybody else that's ever done what he did. And ever since he did that, I've had my eyes peeled for one of these things to do just exactly what he did. And we'll get into that later. But anyway, I'm going to put this thing down and keep my eyes on the road. I just had to turn around and get a shot of this thing. I have never seen an old motorhome like that so massive. I mean, looking at the styling of that, that's probably what, 60s or 70s, but I've never seen one that big before in that kind of vintage. The thing is huge and ugly. Just remembered that I had a wheel here that I just changed, and I thought I'd better stop and check the lug nuts. I guess it's not the lug nuts, it's those damn stupid lug bolts. But anyway, I thought I'd show you this little trailer. Been kind of nifty. I made it out of a camping trailer. Basically just cut the outriggers off that were along here. Added more cross members down the middle. I re-drilled the shackle hangers, lowered it 2 inches. Put a handy trailer, even though I don't use it all that often, but it's kind of nice, you know, when you don't need a big old heavy duty car trailer. I've had a 2-door Explorer on it, which it fit physically, but it was probably kind of taxing its limits weight wise, but turns out it was perfectly sized for that 65 Comet that I went and got last winter. The taillights are kind of odd the way I have those mounted. I kind of thought it'd be nice sticking them up there like that so I could see what the ass end of the trailer was doing when you're backing it up and whatnot, and kind of gets them up in where they don't get damaged, in theory anyway. They do kind of get in the way when you're loading or unloading a vehicle. Got the bridge here, goes across Lake Red Rock, just north of Knoxville. Damned if I can tell you why, but it always makes me nervous going over this thing. Probably a combination of height and yeah, like when you go over a bridge over a river, there's typically all that structure around you. You know, in theory, if you got into a wreck, there's a pretty good chance that all that framing would hold you on the bridge. But I can definitely see a person going over the railing here. I don't know if it's ever happened. If it has, I haven't heard of it. Damn bump on the road. This ice is clattering against my back window. I think that's what it is anyway. Yeah. We'll find out. Drive-in theater. Haven't been over here in a couple of years. Mostly just because, well, I guess there's 2 reasons. Been working more weekends lately, and when I'm not working, they're playing something I really don't care to see. We're just a couple of miles away from picking up the new project. Where is it? Where is it? Folks. Awesome. Oh man, it's loaded. The sun's getting lower in the sky and the wind started picking up. It is cold out there. I'm gonna get going down the road and then I'll show it to you after I warm up a little bit and stop somewhere. There she be. I'm losing daylight fast and it's cold out, and my squeezy pie wants some chicken from Quick Star, so I need to get that home. We'll look this over sometime this weekend when it's warmer. It's going to be sweet. Oh God. You're going to look so adorable in that. Yeah, not so funny now.
I made it!
I'm assuming that was the shifter.
I'm assuming.
You probably twisted it some way to get the next gear. Or...
Yeah. The seat is not wide enough for me.
It seemed to fit me pretty good.
I can't sit down in it.
It does have a quick release, doesn't it? It looks like there's some sort of collar there. It's just stuck from sitting out in the weather, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't want to really punch myself in the face.
I'll do it.
I know you would.
Morning I've had so far, I feel like punching somebody in the face. You're just as good as anyone.
Yay! I'm worth being punched in the face.
Might actually be easier to somehow cut the top and have it tilt open or something.
No kidding. I put a big hinge on it. That wasn't fun at all.
So I haven't figured out what size or what brand this engine is because it doesn't say anything on it. It obviously was a water-cooled engine. Can't get to that side of it doesn't matter, the engine's fucked anyway. You'll pardon my French. I'm assuming that the engine got blown up at some point because they have the drive shaft here unhooked in order to be able to roll it around. So probably when the engine scattered it messed up something in the transmission where it couldn't be shifted into neutral. But it doesn't matter at this point. I don't know how many years this thing's been sitting with the carburetors facing up, just taking in all the rain and snow. Any guesses on what size it is? I don't know. It says 300 milliliters there, but I'm guessing that's just how much oil it takes.
Probably.
Like I said, it doesn't matter. No, not at this point. So anyway, the plan is not to leave it like this. Although that would be kind of fun if I had some sort of a good sized motorcycle engine just to stab it in there and have a little fun ripping around with it. I would, but I don't have one. The only one I've got is a Honda 450, and yeah, if I was going to go to the trouble to do that, I'd want to go ahead with a big ass engine, at least a 750 or bigger. But as I said, that's not the plan. The plan is to make this a little four-wheel drive buggy. This Brian Bartsch guy that did it, his was a truck version of this. And he put Samurai axles under it. I think it had a 750 Suzuki engine. And he managed to put a Samurai transmission and transfer case in it. And it was the most awesome looking little rig. And like I said before, ever since he did that, I kind of wanted to find one of these and do it on my own. And I might actually make this one into a truck, just to stretch the wheelbase out a little bit more, make it easier to package the drivetrain. Supposedly that's some sort of a Toyota rear end. Near as I can tell, it hasn't been raced since 2007 or 2008 based on these stickers here. I don't want to say what I paid for it because I'm sure I overpaid in my enthusiasm. But, you know, haven't we all done that? Now, I'd really like to find a 1100cc Honda V4 that were used in the 80s in the V65 Magna and the V65 Sabre. I have a couple found that I've found on Facebook Marketplace, but they're a little too far away to get right now. I'm kind of busy with other things. I'll kind of go through with what I want to do for the rest of the drivetrain. I mean, I would consider other motorcycle engines, but it has to be liquid cooled. And I would really prefer a Honda because I like Hondas, and shaft drive. But we'll just kind of have to see what falls in my lap in time. Now for axles, I would think maybe some Samurai axles would be good, maybe even Toyota, but the one thing I don't like about those is I kind of don't like the bolt patterns on those. I'd rather have a 5 on 4.5 inch pattern because there seems to be a lot more variety of wheels out there. And with that in mind, and also the fact that I already have this, I'm thinking real strongly about using the axles out of this. It's a 94, I believe, Cherokee. It's got a Dana 30 in the front, high pinion. I don't know what the rear is. I think it's some sort of a Chrysler 8 1/4. But yep, I already own it, and it has 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern, which is what I want. Might end up being a little wide. Time will tell once I get stuff pulled out. But yeah, it's good that I already own it, so it don't cost me nothing. So if instead of doing like Brian did with a Suzuki Samurai transmission transfer case, here's what I'm thinking. It's also Suzuki, but it's a little departure of the way he was doing it. I've got this Geo Metro I bought several years ago in running shape. It was just, yeah, it's all rusted out down here. And honestly, I don't even remember what I was thinking when I bought it, what I was going to do with this thing. But I'm thinking run the shaft drive into this transaxle, tear it open, weld up the differential, and it will function as kind of a range box. I would still use the bike transmission as my primary transmission, but this transaxle would act as a transfer case, and it gives me reverse as well. And it's nice and compact. If you've ever looked at one of these little 3-cylinder Metro engines and transmissions and drivetrains, they are just absurdly tiny. From there to the end of that, it's maybe just slightly over 12 inches. I cut this stuff off for some other project that never panned out, so I'll have to. This is a manual transmission, 5-speed, I believe, and you know, honestly, because this thought's run through my head as well, because I don't have a bike engine already, I could even just go ahead and run this engine. I don't really want to. I think I'd like to get the kind of size bike engine I want would be around 100 horsepower. If I remember right, I think this makes about 50, 55. But with the gearing going through the transaxle and then through the differentials, this would make a really good crawler engine. Whereas the bike would be kind of a, you know, high RPM, you know, fun type ripping engine. But also this is fuel injected. You know, looks like the mice chewed on things here a little bit. I had this thing running a couple of years ago. It might still run now. I don't know. It's a possibility. It's one of those things I already own it, so it wouldn't cost me anything. So it might come down to that. It would still be fun, even with only 55 horsepower. Like I said, it'd be a little crawler then, more so than a high RPM ripper. Now I've kind of already thought this through. With the Honda V4 engine and the shaft drive, it turns backwards to everything else I would want to do. I could do one of two things. Some of the solutions kind of work with other solutions. It's going to end up where the differentials need to be on what would be the passenger side of the vehicle if it were set up for 2 people. Obviously the Cherokee is not set up that way. So in order to counter everything turning backwards, I could feed the Honda engine into the Suzuki transaxle, and I'm not sure what the effects would be of turning that transaxle backwards constantly would be, but in order to counter that everything's turning backwards, I could take the Cherokee axle, cut the ends off, flip it over. That gets the differential onto the passenger side, and it would also get it spinning in the proper direction. I would actually have to you know, re-engineer the vents and whatnot, and then yeah, re-weld the ends on the axle. And I guess if I thought it was too wide, I could narrow it up then while I'm doing that. Same thing in the rear. I'd just have to flip it upside down. Although I'm thinking for the rear, I may not even use the Cherokee rear axle. I might use like a 7.5 out of a Ranger, same bolt pattern. And those little 7.5s, they are surprisingly stout for no bigger than they are. But if I end up using just the whole engine, 3-cylinder Metro engine and whatnot, everything will be turning the proper way. So then I would actually have to cut the axle tubes off of the Dana 30 from the Cherokee and flip them side to side. That would move the differential over to the passenger side. Yeah, there's always a solution. It's only metal. It can be cut and re-welded. No big deal there. Just have to put the time in on it. For tires, yeah, Brian, the one he built, it had 33-inch boggers, I think, on it. I don't know if it's going to show here. I'll show you what I got in the shed. I picked these up last winter just because they popped up on Facebook Marketplace. Oh, I'll be damned, they actually are showing up. These are a 32-inch tall, I think they're silverback tires, they're called, and my sunlight kind of went down a little bit. I don't know if they actually measure 32 inches tall or not, but man, look at the lugs on them. Let's see, I think this one, these two are the best ones. That's a pretty tall lug. Or I could run these tractor tires. I think they're about a 33 or 34 inch tall tire. Or I might find something else at a swap meet. And that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to go with that axle with the 514.5 pattern. It's going to be a lot easier like I said, there's a lot more variety of wheels out there for 514.5. I can find 16-inch wheels for these, and these ATV tires use a 14-inch wheel, which I already have a set. I love these old Keystone Classics. I would mount them up on that, maybe even build some bead locks for them. So there's the plan. Go ahead and tell me what you think. Maybe if you got a better idea, put it in the comments, or if you know of where there's one of those 1100cc V4 Honda engines within a few hour drive of me. I'd love to have one. It's the missing piece of how I really want to build it. Well, I'm on my way to Minnesota to pick up a motorcycle for the engine. It's not what I was looking for, which, as you recall, I said I wanted to get like an 1100 Honda V4. This particular one is a 1500 Goldwing. Seems like there's a lot of cheap Goldwings out there. This one is a flat 6 engine, and these are really wide. I initially didn't want that, but I figure it's not really going to hurt having that much engine sticking out from underneath the hood, because I'm going to have wide enough axles that the tires shouldn't get into it. A little less horsepower than the 1100 V4, but it should make its peak torque a lot lower in the RPM range. Man, this wind is just wreaking havoc on my poor little Ranger. Another nice thing about the Goldwing engine is the shaft drive is on the right hand side of the bike, which results in everything turning in the proper direction. My biggest concern right now, I'm not putting the bike in the Ranger, I'm pulling a little 4x8 trailer. The trailer should handle the weight of the bike, and if my dimensions that I found on the internet are correct, the bike should fit on the trailer. The biggest problem is going to be that I may not be able to position the bike to get optimal weight balance on the trailer, to get enough tongue weight. That's my biggest fear. But we shall see. I may not even buy it, but I will report in later when I got more to tell you. So I am on my way back south, heavy with one Honda Goldwing. It's not actually the one I went up there to look at. And then I told him what I was going to do with it. And he took me out to this shed where he had a whole ass load of Goldwings out there. And he had one that was 16,000 miles on it. Picked over for parts. We made a deal on that. He got it all dug out. And we was just getting ready to load it on my trailer, and we discovered that the case on the bottom side of the engine was busted up. He was buying some of these from insurance companies. I think he just kind of had so many of them and been doing this for so long that he was probably forgetting why some of them were there. So we put that one back, and I picked out another one that has supposedly 34,000 miles on it. It's another one that's been picked over for parts. It was missing the alternator. He gave me one of those. What else? The side cover was busted, but I'm assuming the engine was good, because the side cover that was busted, he said that came off a different bike. They actually took that cover off to use on something else, and they stuck a broken side cover on it with a piece of duct tape over. So they made an attempt to keep crud out of the engine, so I'm assuming that was a good sign. And it was also missing the front cover for the timing belt, and they couldn't find one at the moment, but he said he knows he has one. And when he passes, they're going to be going south here in the next week or two at their motorhome. He said he'll get a hold of me and meet up with me when he goes through my town. So we'll see if that happens or not, or if I am a sucker there. I might have been a sucker for this whole thing. Yeah, that's just a chance you take when you buy non-running motorcycles, or any vehicle for that matter. We did verify the engine was not locked up, but we tried hooking a battery to it and it wouldn't crank. Something wrong with the wiring, wouldn't activate the starter, and you couldn't get to the starter stud because it was buried behind the frame. But we did, yeah, kick it in gear, pick up the rear wheel, and and it turns. But let me show it to you. It's really cold and windy outside. At least the trip home I'm doing a lot better, so I'm not fighting the wind. The Ranger, she's just zipping right along. Well, there she is. Ain't she a beaut? Another benefit to buying one of these that had all the parts missing was because the wind was so bad on the way up there. I was not looking forward to bringing this home. Having a fairing and windshield and saddlebags grabbing the wind. Plus, even when I would have got it home, I would have had to take all that crap off and haul it to swap meets for years or try to get rid of it. But this way, it's just more convenient for me to tear it apart. There's the cover that's missing. Now, before I ever went, I had some concerns about the weight balance, like I talked about before. I brought a bunch of blocks and some tools and whatnot, just in case if I would have had to take off that front wheel to get the bike moved forward another foot. Once we loaded it up, the trailer was a little light in the nose. I strapped my spare tire on it and piled a bunch of crap on the trailer and tied it down. I think it's still a little light in the front, but it's still towing pretty damn good. Sorry about the wind, but anyway, I'm gonna hit the road. Well, folks, it is March 13th or 14th. As you can see, I've done nothing with it yet. Not surprising. I was never under the illusion I was going to get to that real soon, and my apologies to you if I gave you that impression. If you've been watching this channel, you know that I have a lot of projects. And that sounds like a bad thing, and in some ways it is, having too many projects, but in other ways it's kind of good because while you're working on one, you can be collecting parts and ideas and doing research on some of the others. It already looks like I've got all the big pieces for the dwarf car there, but that's not necessarily always the easy part, but I'm sure those of you out there who fabricated stuff know that. It's all the nickel and dime and fabricating and all that. But there is a problem with one of my components. I'll go see if I can show you it properly. Well, if you remember the Cherokee I was going to use for the axles, I can get this picked up. But I was out here with the loader one day, had this thing picked up in the air. I was trying to determine what the axle ratio was. And I found this. I did notice, yeah, obviously the front drive shaft was missing, but somebody, a previous owner, took the front drive shaft off because of, no doubt, the horrible noise that this front end was making. I can't get my arm in there to get enough leverage on it, but yeah, look at that. That pinion moves in and out and slops back and forth. I'm sure those gears are fucked. But yeah, even with the drive shaft gone, that thing would still be spinning all the time. So I don't know if I'm actually just going to use this axle housing and just go get a set of junkyard gears and throw in it, or maybe look for another one. So even needing to find another axle, it's not that big a deal because I'm not going to get to that real soon. I probably, as the weather warms up, I'll get out here once in a while and start pulling parts off of this, get it stripped down to just the bare body and frame, tube frame such as it is. I don't think I'm going to make video of that, and then I'll go around to these various parts vehicles and gather up the parts from them, and then keep looking for another Cherokee front axle. Then when I have all that stuff gathered up, then I'll start my video series of building this. The Honda Goldwing I got for the engine, obviously I'm going to have to get it running at some point to determine if the engine's worth using. I don't know if I'll make a video of that or not. It seems like, yeah, this bike right here behind me, this Nighthawk 450, it was one of my poorer performing videos. Seems like people didn't really respond to that. So I don't know if I'll do a revival on the Goldwing. I kind of want to. What do you guys think? Do you want to see that? But anyway, one of the things that is holding up the build on that is this thing. This is where I want to build it. I don't need to, but I really want to build it on a concrete floor. So I need this side of my shop. So that being said, this thing's been sitting here in the background for over a year and I've hardly done anything to it. So it's time to get something done with this. So you're going to be seeing some videos on that. But anyway, one of the things I was alluding to about having so many projects And you know, it gives you time to collect parts for the other projects while you're working on other projects. A perfect example of that is the Ranchero back there. It's been about a year since I've messed with that, but in that year I've managed to find seats for it that I like. Again, pointing the wrong way here. There we go, that's better. I'll just turn the camera around, how about that? I found a set of seats for it that I wanted. Those side pipes that I got at the swap meet down in Cape Girardeau, that wasn't just something I saw and decided to do. That's something I wanted to do from the beginning. And even more surprising, last fall at a swap meet, I found a brand new set of 538 Dana 60 high pinion ring and pinion for that front axle for $20, brand new. So yeah, it gives you time to find good deals for the projects you're going to build. It was kind of my point. You're not, you know, if you're only working on one project, you feel kind of rushed, or you have to go out and buy new stuff. So in a sense, that's kind of like, you know, finding a silver lining on a shitty situation and having too damn many projects. But anyway, thanks for watching and sitting around listening to me blather for so long. Hopefully next week's video we'll get to work on something. Probably that Bronco 2 truggy in there.